Good morning. Not sure if we went live earlier. It's kind of funny.
You be the first to tell us.
We should have. Um,
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Welcome to College Coffee Talk. Pearl, you look great.
Thank you. So do you, Andy.
Okay, I don't need that positive reinforcement, but
Okay.
thank you. So, yeah, we got a lot to talk about today because another day, another development with the Department of Education, with college acceptances, with financial aid offers, you name it. That's what we talk about here on College Coffee Talk, either behind the scenes or in front. If we don't break that fourth wall, talk about it all the time, and you're welcome to join us. So say hi in the chat. Join us in a synchronized sip of your morning beverage. Let us know what you're having. This looks like cappuccino.
It is. Ding, ding, ding. Cheers.
You make a nice cappuccino. And that is delicious.
Thank you.
Yeah. So why don't we start off with, actually, you guys say hi in the chat. Let us know that we're coming in loud and clear. And
here during this spring morning. Doesn't feel like spring just yet, but
it feels like early spring.
Yeah.
Feels like golf season. So hey, say hi. Let us know what questions you have. And Pearl, why don't you give us your latest as the world turns in the wonderful world of the Trump administration and the Department of Education, which as of today is still around.
It is still around for how many hours more? I'm not really sure. As of this past Friday, the Department of Education has halved its employees. And the plan is to dismantle the Department of Education completely. What does that mean? And this is what I'm about to say again. I said it last week. They always gloss over this next part. They're dismantling it, but what is happening with the functions that were or currently are carried out by the Department of Education? What's going to happen to those functions? Are those also going away along with the dismantling of the Department of Education? Some yes, some no. Are you going to be able to still borrow money to pay for school? As of now, yes. But that's not going to be handled by the Department of Education. So it seems going further. It looks like that function is going to be taken over by the Small Business Association. So that much we've heard.
It's still all up in the air, though.
It's still all up in the air, and I've seen a lot of the talking heads try to say, okay, well, it feels like we're going to do this. I've seen nothing is going to happen to the public service loan forgiveness. Nothing is going to happen to the income-based repayment plans, because those were passed by Congress and therefore are written into our laws. And so in order to undo those, it cannot just be undone by an executive order, like some of the other things that have been done. And so there would require more activity, more action, a stricter code by which, not a code, I can't spit it out. They're going to have stricter guidelines, underwriting for maybe who can borrow, not so much who can borrow, but right now, when I tell people about borrowing, I say, this is the easiest loan to come by. There is no debt to income ratio. It's a simple, yes, you can borrow, or no, your credit doesn't pass, or yes, your credit passes. And then after that, whatever it is you need to borrow is what you can borrow, because it's just a matter of a yes, no proposition. Yes, my credit passes. Going further.
It's incredibly easy. I've seen we've had clients who are like in foreclosures, who had all sorts of horrible things in their credit.
And you're like, whoa,
you're like,
yay.
Yeah,
exactly.
You're approved for 80 grand.
Right.
Per year.
Similar, I think there has been a similar comparison made between what feels like a bubble and perhaps what this administration is trying to address, and the housing crisis of 2008, 2009, when it was just as easy, seemingly, to obtain a mortgage for a house.
Right.
You had little that you had to demonstrate. You could just state your income and state your assets. I say it's this and I say it's that. And people were
the liar loans.
right.
Yeah.
And people were borrowing, untold amounts of money, more than they could afford, because the underwriting guidelines went by the wayside. And it became easier and easier until, unfortunately, buck's got to stop someplace, and then there was a fallout. I think that's what's attempting to be managed at this point. But anyway.
Well, I'm going to point out one more thing. So this also another thing that doesn't get covered, as far as I can tell, is and maybe it's because it's just assumed, but I'll just state it right now. If you have a current loan, the terms can't change. So basically, because it's a contract.
Yeah.
So, when you borrow, you're signing a promissory note, and you're actually in a contract with your lender. So anyone who currently has loans out there, there's no issue of whether all of a sudden something's going to happen because of the Trump administration. Okay. Now, interest rates shift and change, but not on what you currently have borrowed, because that's contractually locked in.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So interest rates get set every July for the year that then starts, the school year that begins in late August or September. And that interest rate carries through for that entire aid year, and then it resets again in July for the following year. I don't know yet what the interest rate is going to be for the 25-26 school year. There's a lot up in the air at the moment, but as I researching it every single day and waiting with bated breath to hear what's going to happen. And
what is bated breath? That's held breath.
I think that's bated breath. Like,
I don't think bated means hell.
I'll look it up.
You've nice sweet breath though.
Thanks.
And good morning to Nancy, Lisa. If you guys have any questions, I see a bunch of other people joining us. Pop in, say hi, throw out your question related to college stuff, not the meaning of baited or any other etymological questions.
Wait, we do have a special happy anniversary to wish this morning to Christine and Lily. Yep, happy 29th anniversary. Many happy returns.
I was going to say, do we do that on the show? But if it's for
Christine, we
happy
do.
Anniversary.
Woo!
Very nice. Yeah. What else about potential disruption? Like, you gave some advice last week. I've been giving this advice too. Maybe with the now that there's been 1,300 people who just had their jobs cut, right. Unfortunately, some of whom sounds like are going to be reinstated, mm-hmm. And then there was another 600 or so people who took early retirement, right. And the whole department wasn't more than a few thousand people to begin with,
right?
So I'm wondering if there's going to be, I think there has to be some sort of disruption, as here we are in toward the end of March. Most of the financial aid offers have come out, not all, they're still coming out. We're still waiting on like Ivy Day and those financial aid offers, which I think is the 27th, right? And then there's going to be, like there is every year, a mad scramble to try to, see where the cards are dealt and pick what schools you actually want to visit, and then ultimately commit to, and then deal with the scholarship and financial aid offerings. And then usually June is when the loan paperwork season starts.
Yes, I mean it becomes available mid-April.
Okay.
But
no one knows where they're going in mid-April for the most part.
For the most part, okay. Usually much more heavily after May 1st. And yes, and I encourage everybody, and this is true, the FAFSA, of anything that you are trying to accomplish, I would do it sooner rather than later, so that you're grandfathered into anything that may change.
So we got a great question after hours that I responded to a few days ago, which I'll just pose to you and see if I got it right. So let's say hypothetically you do your paperwork right away in May, mm-hmm. And then in July you decide, you know what, the things shifted, we're going to go to a different college.
Okay.
What happens?
So
can you apply and then
yes,
use the approval for that loan that you got approved for in May to a different college in July?
You can. You just need to go back into your already submitted PLUS loan and update it to make a new plus loan where you update school, update the amount you're borrowing,
Okay.
anything like that.
Okay. All right. Any other DOE, Department of Education hijinks? Any wacky things? It seems like there's news almost every day.
There really is.
Yeah.
Really just a wait and see. You are able to still file FAFSAs. You're able to pull up a lot of scholarships. People have, parents have employers that are willing to match or give some kind of educational scholarship to their employees, kids. And frequently or for other scholarships, people need their FAFSA summary report. So that's available once your FAFSA is completed processing. The FAFSA summary report, which is what a lot of the scholarship holders are looking for, you can download it and supply that report to anybody who needs it, who's potentially looking to offer you money.
I would expect all sorts of delays and unreturned emails and all that.
Right.
But hopefully, a lot of the updates that have already started happening to the whole process, which started 2 years ago, last year was a disaster. This year is better. But now with all these tech bros and nerds that have invaded the government in Washington, hopefully things are going
Maybe
to
it'll be better.
streamlined. Yeah.
For whatever it's worth.
Yeah.
In their infinite wisdom, in updating the FAFSA and changing this and changing that, things were not any more efficient.
Well, they were less efficient for the first year, and then for this second year, I think behind the scenes, because they updated the platform that everything was coded on. I think things went a lot better behind the scenes for the administrators, like at the colleges.
Right. I don't see that beeping blue light anymore.
You mean in terms of you're waiting, everything?
Usability.
Okay. All right.
Anyway.
Funny. Nene, great comment. She knew that I was going to comment on the bated breath. Which is funny.
Anyone look up baited yet?
Well, does it mean is it bait, like you're, fishing? Are you waiting for something to land something?
You are waiting. Yes, you're waiting for the fishing to land. You're waiting for something to happen.
Is it baited with an I or is it baited with a T, B-A-T-E-D? I don't know. I just don't know. These are the things that I think about.
Keep you up
and I want to share to our...
You're a sharer.
Yeah, to our thousands of followers and dropping. So,
hopefully not.
Well,
you can always get your money back.
We're an acquired taste.
Yeah.
So, okay, let me just share a couple of things before we wrap up that have been happening in the wonderful world of college admissions. So, I met with a few prospective clients over the weekend, and we're just kind of shooting the breeze about how crazy things are. And one of them asked me, so how many colleges do kids apply to these days?
Oh.
And I said, well, typically now, the range is usually 12 to 14, 14 to 16, something like that. The common application lets you go up to 20. And then I said, well, we did have a very high achiever this year.
Record breaking.
What was her number?
56.
Yeah.
That's too much. It's too much.
20 is too much. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know how that happened other than she
Poor
was
planning.
Well, that's not. Yeah. I don't think you can even use the word plan.
Right.
It was a heavy
dose of plan.
A heavy dose of neuroses, probably, and just kept hearing stuff from her guidance counselor and from other kids at school. In her defense, they're not from this country. She came here, when she was before middle school, I think. But yeah, there's a big difference between 12 to 14 and 56, not just numerically, but emotionally.
It's
so what's going to happen?
What's
going to happen? Yeah, it's definitely. There's some mania there for sure. What's going to happen is she's going to get into probably half of those schools, because in that 56, I think we covered all Ivies and the other top 20 colleges.
Yeah.
Which she won't get into. And then.
And if you're listening,
she's going to have. Well, no,
it's true.
Don't do this. So then she's going to have a whole bunch of colleges that she's going to get into, and she's going to be sitting there thinking, okay, I got into. The University of Minnesota. Am I really going to go there?
Right.
Why did I even apply there? Right. So, I think in her case, she got her application fees waived, so it wasn't a big financial commitment.
Right.
But for regular people, that could be what, $5,600 or
Something like-
$8,000
a
depending
lot.
on the application fees,
Yeah.
right? So so that was our new record. So I wanted to share that with you. We should come up with an awards show.
We
maybe.
should.
Yeah, that would be funny. Let's see. I had another conversation about, from a client who texted me like on a Thursday night at like 7:30 or something, saying, "Well, I got denied from BC. Is there something wrong? Do you think that I did something wrong in my applications?" And I said, "Well, off the top of my head, I think you were kind of in the low end of the median." And I'm trying to picture the software that we use. It's not Naviance, it's not Score or whatever. And I was trying to picture, where she fell in that. And I said to her, "Look, I'm not in front of my, I don't have your file in front of me. So when I get in the office, I'll check it out. I'll look tomorrow." So the next day, I opened up her file and I looked in, and Boston College was something like a 2% shot for her to get in.
Wow.
And I was like, "No, there's nothing you did wrong. It's just that you didn't stack up compared to the other kids that BC lets in," which she knew.
And she disregarded those statistics.
She disregarded. She just forgot about it because that was months ago since the last time she logged in. But that was her top school. She took a shot at it, which is great.
Yeah.
I never tell kids to not do that. Apparently, another advisor, sidetrack here, another advisor for parents that we met the other week in the office, who used to work with, had said something like, "Don't even bother applying to a few schools." And the mom was like, "Do you do that to kids?" And I'm going to say the same thing I told her, which is, no, I would say always apply to your top dream school, which is a whole nother issue. Like, why is it? But just make sure that your college list is not top heavy. It's not heavily dominated by those types of schools. So if you have 14 colleges, maybe 3 or at most 4 schools should be those, high echelon reach schools. And then the rest should be 50-50 or better, because just because you're 50-50 doesn't mean you get in. It doesn't mean you get into half of your 50-50s either. Those are just what we're able to predict, which is not a crystal ball, but we're able to predict with, possibly 75 to 80% accuracy of your ability to get in. So I said to the girl, I said, "So yeah, no, you took your shot, but it wasn't like you did something wrong on your applications. You did everything you possibly could. It's just that in terms of your GPA, in terms of your rigor, meaning your AP classes, which that gets overlooked all the time.
Big time.
In terms of your SAT scores, which you didn't submit because they were below the median. And then in terms of the other 20-ish factors, which include your extracurriculars, leadership, your impact, but it also includes stuff that you can't control, like your race, your ethnicity, your zip code, what high school. Well, I guess you can control your high school, but there are all sorts of things that are really irrelevant compared to your ability to successfully do the work at these schools." But in her case, she was, academically speaking, and in other areas, roughly about a 2% shot compared to everyone all over the country that BC let in last year. So I pointed that to her. She's like, "Oh yeah, you're right. I forgot." We had another client last week who she was working with one of our advisors, and Beth, who's out in California, and a great advisor, and she was almost taking Beth to task. She was taking her to task because her daughter hadn't gotten into a bunch of schools, and she was saying, like, she's crying. She feels like the whole process stunk, and she's this and that. And Beth said something. She's a mom also, so this is very much in line with things I hear you say all the time. Is that number one, the kid had a 1390 on her SAT, and she didn't compete at the top echelon where most of the other kids had low 1500 scores, right? And then the rest of her application, even at a test optional type of position, was not strong relative to the competition. And the second thing Beth said, was, a lot of, and I'm paraphrasing, a lot of this, emotion and sadness and depression is could be coming from mom, from mom's
expectations or imposing,
or just saying, like, they didn't, honey, I don't know why you didn't get in.
Focusing on that.
focusing on that, like
Right.
and again, what you always refer to as sort of giving away your power, your personal power to these nameless, faceless people at these colleges who are judging, whether or not you're going to meet their criteria.
Right.
And the mom was pretty offended. She was like, "No, I've been nothing but sunshine and roses to her," something like that. And then I stepped in. This is all by email, and I was like, "Look, you have to understand that number one, there are 3.9 million kids graduating high school this year. That is a peak for class of 2025. Number two, there are not more spots at colleges. Number three, submissions using a common application are up 8%, and they increase every year. So and number four, there's all these test optional types of submissions going in. So there's never been more people applying to college than this past year. And I said, look, it's not over either, because she got waitlisted and deferred at a lot of places. And I also said, like, look, just because a college decides that they're not going to admit you has no bearing on her daughter's ability to succeed there academically. Doing well in school is a different skill set or different discipline, for lack of a better word, than getting in. And a lot of times these colleges are not looking for another white kid from the North Shore of Long Island from a wealthy family. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not, right? But there's a lot of them, and it's harder to stick out. It's a sea of sameness where there could be, in this kid's cases, there could have been, literally 30,000 other kids vying for a spot at Wake Forest where she was deferred, or a bunch of other schools. So I said, look, the fact that she's a great student in high school, she's very involved with a lot of different things. She happens to be very nice and polite, and she's a good-looking kid and comes from a good family. Those are things and she knows how to talk to people. Those are things that are going to make her successful. And the fact that she threw a hat in the ring at all these top schools because she felt like she wanted to compete there, that's way more important than where she actually goes to college.
That's true.
So, and I say this until I'm blue in the face to a lot of kids. And conversely, how many people do we know who went to these top schools, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, whatever, and they're just losers? And I don't mean that in a judgy way. It's
true.
But in every measurable way, number of friends, amount of money, station in life, or respect from other people, or I don't care how you measure it up. We all know people like that who, just because they got that brass ring, it didn't translate into another decades of wine and roses afterward.
Right.
And we know so many people just from our own practice who get into their dream. Well, we have the opposite too, right? But they get into these dream colleges and then they're miserable.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's very uncomfortable because you put all your stock in this place, and now what? Right. And now what? You're there, and it's not all you hope for.
Right. And then in contrast, right, how many, you're going to say
people who parents who have wildly successful businesses, and they're like, I was a failure as a student.
Yeah.
I got straight C's in school. I didn't bother going to college, and
but I want my kids to go to a Princeton.
And I knew the ABCs of Do Re Mi. Right. So he knew how to hustle. He knew how to make a living.
But then when they whatever insecurity they still feel, which is common, but silly, but we're all prey to the same types of things. Now they want the kids to go to those schools, but in
a chance they didn't have.
Yeah, but what's that going to result in? It could be a life of not living up to expectations and not accomplishing things on your own and all that.
Exactly, a lot of imposter syndrome. And let's face it, your child doesn't have the same upbringing that you did. It's unlikely anyway.
Well, a lot of the parents went through all kinds of struggles and ups and downs and all that, and I understand the impulse to try to snowplow all those obstacles away from your kids. But
you try to resist it all the time, honey, and I commend you for trying to resist that urge to snowplow things for our children.
Yeah, between us two, I'm definitely
You're doing great.
Yeah, such sarcasm. I'm usually the sarcastic one.
How pets end up looking like their owners?
Funny. Yeah. I wish I looked like you.
And I'm you.
All right. Nene came in with a definition of bated breath.
Oh, yay. Read it aloud.
Well, we know what it means. Restrain or holding either eagerly or anxiously one's breath.
Right, like this.
But the word bated.
That's what it means.
Right. But the word bated, we don't use it in other contexts like that. But okay. Great research. Thank you,
Nene.
chat nene BT. And then Lisa says only apply to schools that you actually go to. Yeah, and that's sometimes I will
Maybe.
I will right. I think the caveat is you don't a lot of kids specifically because the school isn't ranked highly don't want to go there, but they kind of as a concession throw them on their list. And so it is a maybe, like, all right, if I have to go there, I guess I would go there type of thing, but they're not psyched about it.
Or we may have a strategic reason for adding a school
Sure.
to a list because we're looking, if let's say you don't qualify for any need-based financial aid and the name of the game for you is merit money in order to get a discount on the cost. In that case,
it helps to have another
it's
offer.
going to help to have other offers to use as leverage against the school you want to go to.
Right, but to Lisa's point, you still may end up going there because a lot of times you're like, wow, they gave me so much money, they really want me, I feel good about myself, right?
And then you have another consideration like, and I want to go to law school and I really need to save my money for that, and I'm getting this now, and maybe because I'm getting so much money, it shows I'm a really good student as compared to everybody else who goes to that school, so I have a better chance of getting that 3.7 or higher that I need in order to be a competitive law school applicant.
Yeah, and I don't know how frequently I say this, and if I said this on a previous episode, but a great example is if you want to go to medical school,
right?
And a lot of kids who get into Ivy League schools undergrad and they run into like the organic chemistry buzzsaw and get a C and they're psyched because they thought they flunked, but they end up dropping the pre-med track and they go into consulting or something because that's what 50% of Ivy League graduates do, consulting or some sort of banking or private equity. Whereas the kids who go to the quote unquote lesser schools and they're able to get better grades may not give up their dream of being a doctor because they didn't practically flunk or get a C in organic chemistry. So the longer game is definitely much more important here. The last comment I wanted to make about that, off of Lisa's comment, is that a lot of times people settle. Kids settle for their safety schools for any reason, not just the ones we're talking about, and they end up loving it, and they forget all about that it was a safety, and they end up graduating with honors or something, and they are. I think the dirty little secret is that there's really very little difference among a certain tier of colleges. It's basically the same type of kids that go to most of the top schools, not just the elite ones. And of course, the education is debatable, but it's roughly the same everywhere. And there's many more intangibles, but none of this stuff shows up in the U.S. News and World Report rankings. There's many other factors that go toward ranking a school, but none of them has to do with quality of education, which is very interesting. A lot of it has to do with how much money they raise, how much involved the
research they do, how many libraries they have,
how involved the alumni are, the reputation from polling other presidents and other peer institutions, but nothing has to do with quality of education. Just food for thought. Why don't we leave it there?
Okay.
On that note. All right. Thanks for joining us.
Have a great week.
Yeah, this was great. Great questions. If you have anything that comes up later, meaning you're watching this or listening to this on our podcast, The College Admissions Edge, or any of the other social platforms that Pearl dominates, just pop them in there and we will do our best to answer them in a relatively timely manner. But thanks for joining us, and we'll see you back here next week on College Coffee Talk, Mondays at 10 a.m. on Facebook.